All eyes on the Lone Star State. The Senate seat is up for grabs as a veteran incumbent faces his toughest primary yet. Redrawn maps are shaking up Congress, while a wide-open race for Attorney General transforms the power structure in Austin. The polls, the players, the path to victory. This is Battleground Texas.
Hello, I'm Greg Grugan in Houston. Pressure and intense scrutiny descending on San Antonio Congressman Tony Gonzalez after the emergence of text messages appearing to confirm an extramarital relationship with a female staffer who later committed suicide by self-immolation. Gonzalez is embroiled in a brutal primary battle against fellow Republican Brandon Herrera. This week, the dead staffer's husband told the San Antonio Express News the congressman should be held accountable for abuse of power. In a statement, Gonzalez said he's not going to respond to personal smears. Stay tuned to this one, everyone. I'm guessing it will not end well. Meantime, in the marquee battle to represent Texas in the U.S. Senate, four-term incumbent John Cornyn continued his barnstorming tour of the Lone Star State with a stump speech in the Bayou City. Senator Cornyn rallied here in Houston today and says by the time this is over, he will drive a stake through Ken Paxton's political career once and for all. Have a listen. Paxton also said that his polling suggests he does as well as you do in a general election. You buying that?
I'll try to watch my language. That's, let me just say that's BS. After we get through with the Attorney General in this runoff, 10-week runoff, he's going to be unelectable. And I know he still thinks, he's bulletproof. He's, even with all the scandals and the baggage that he has personally and otherwise, that people don't care. Well, I guarantee in a general election, it will be a dead weight around the neck of Republicans up and down the ticket. Just remember, President Trump's not on the ballot this midterm election. The Senate race is at the top, then it's the congressional seats, and then Governor Abbott, and then the state race is below that. So I've actually won by 10 points in 2020. President Trump won by 6 points in Texas in 2020. So I'd like to continue to contribute that while I'd like to continue to help President Trump continue to pass his policies and pursue his agenda. But Ken Paxton will be the kiss of death for Republicans on the ticket in November of 2026.
Let me bring in my Fox Texas colleague, Rudy Koski in Austin, and longtime Fox legal and political analyst, Chris Tritico. Rudy, Cornyn is hoping to stir up fear among fence-sitting Republicans and conservative-leaning independents. The argument nominating the baggage-laden Ken Paxton will put the Senate seat in grave danger against an energized, well-funded Democrat. Question, are Republicans buying what Cornyn's selling?
Well, Greg, polls certainly show that there is a solid block of Republican voters who agree Ken Paxton as the nominee is exactly what the Democrats want. Cornyn's warning of a November massacre, well, it may be less of a scare tactic and more of a rip current red flag warning. It's clear Paxton, Cornyn, and Hunt are playing the long game for a runoff. Greg?
Chris, Paxton broke cover this week and claims Cornyn is fear-mongering because he will do just fine with moderates and independents if granted the nomination by GOP primary voters. Does that sound overly optimistic to you?
Well, everybody knows what Paxton's problems have been over the last several years. He's been indicted, he's been impeached, he's won everything, and he's going to. Nobody has had a problem with that in the Republican Party. Why they're all of a sudden going to have a problem with it now, I don't know. I don't know why that would be an issue today. And so what Cornyn is saying, he's going to be bringing up the things that we already know about Ken Paxton. I don't know why that's going to turn the tide today.
All right, our colleague Stephen Dial caught up with Paxton in Dallas last night while speaking to a very receptive group of Republican primary voters.
John's a big supporter of amnesty. John has been fighting the border wall for over a decade, even though he's advertising that he loves it. He advertises that he loves Donald Trump. Do you guys believe that? Does anybody believe that? In 2016, he said Donald Trump was an albatross around our neck. to Republicans. He's saying that about me now. That's $32 trillion of spending, and John has said nothing about it. He hasn't stopped it. He's kept spending on things. He spent more money on the Ukraine border than he has ours.
Paxton portraying Cornyn as a Trump betrayer and profligate spender, and the MAGA audience in DFW ate it up. Rudy, your reaction to something we haven't seen for a long while? Paxton on the stump.
Yeah, Lindsay finally got to hear him, right? You know, the polls have made it clear that he cannot stay in that Joe Biden memorial basement up here in Austin anymore. So today he's wrapping up a 4-day swing organized by a PAC that supports him. And to his credit, Paxton is doing interviews like the one he did with Stephen. But all thoughts of a walk-away anointing by this former front runner, well, they're long gone. And I think we can expect more punches thrown at Wesley Hunt, because as wild as it may sound, Paxton could be the odd man out in a May runoff. It's no longer a wild, drunken talk coming out of the broken spoke there, Greg.
Yeah, Chris, ahead in most polls, Paxton has kept an ultra-low profile, avoiding interviews that would no doubt involve questions regarding multiple scandals. You've actually talked to the man in person. What was your take on the guy some call Teflon Ken?
You know, I was forced to go to a fundraiser at a friend of mine's house that I didn't want to go to, but I had to. And I found him incredibly easy to talk to, very friendly, very personable. Not the person that I wanted to meet, not the person I expected to meet, not the person that has been demonized that I've been watching in the news for all these years. He was incredibly personable to talk to, and I talked to him for a very long time at my friend's house. Actually, opposite of the person that I thought I was going to meet. It didn't change my opinion about him as an individual or as a politician, but he is incredibly personable. And when he goes to these fundraisers, if the person I talk to is the person that's talking at these fundraisers, he's going to be very charismatic.
All right, stay with us. We will hear from the third Republican in this primary cage fight on the other side of this break.
Welcome back to Battleground Texas. I'm Rudy Koski in Austin. Staying with that battle for the GOP Senate nomination. Wesley Hunt is the third player in what was originally billed as a two-horse race. But recent polls show he has now closed the gap. And this long-shot candidate is now a big target. Hunt today spoke to me about those attack ads against him and how the lack of a presidential endorsement has kept him in the race.
Paxton and Cornyn just a couple of days ago bought $1 million ad buy a piece hitting me in Texas, which I believe is great because as an Apache helicopter pilot, it means I am right over the target zone when people start shooting at you.
Let's talk about those attack ads. Some of those ads are going right after your voting record, all the way back to the early 2000s, claiming that you voted for Hillary Clinton, and then your voting record in Congress. Let's talk about Hillary Clinton first. Are you a Democrat plant?
Absolutely not. I am a lifelong conservative. And in 2008, I voted for Hillary Clinton in Operation Chaos, like thousands of conservatives did. And the funny thing about Cornyn is now he's trying to conflate that and say that I voted against President Trump in 2016. That's a flat-out lie. I voted for President Trump in 2016. I have the proof. I voted for him in 2020 because he endorsed me in 2020, and we were actually both on the ballot in 2020. And in 2024, I was the first person in the country to endorse President Trump.
You have missed a lot of votes in Congress. How do you square that?
Well, in the very beginning, when I first got to Congress, my little boy was actually in the NICU, so I missed a large tranche of votes then. And then also, I was one of President Trump's top surrogates when he was running. And so when President Trump asked you to be somewhere, you be there. And then lately, over the course of the past few months, I've been crisscrossing Texas to unseat a 24-year incumbent because I believe it's time for term limits and the people of Texas are looking for someone else. The one thing I'll tell you is this. When J.D. Vance was tapped to be the vice president, do you know how many votes he missed? All of them. And thank God he did. Otherwise, we could have Harrison Walz as our president. And I tell you what, I'm doing the exact same thing for the people of Texas.
The president came out recently and said, not going to do an endorsement, but I give all three of you my love. How do you react to that?
I think it's fantastic because you have to keep in mind John Cornyn is one of two Republican incumbents that in the entire country that the president has not endorsed. So what does that tell you? I think what it means is that I never speak for the president. I never put words in his mouth, but certainly him staying out of it gave me a shot. If he would have endorsed any of these men in the 9 months that I waited before I got in this race, I most certainly wouldn't be here. And most importantly, I have committed to term limits. 2 terms, that is all. 12 years, that's enough. I have not heard any of my counterparts commit to that. Obviously, John Cornyn has not. Those are big differentiating factors that I think the people of Texas want.
Yeah, a lot of people talking about those term limits. Now, Wesley Hunt is embracing the hits, trying to absorb them. But Greg, that vote for Hillary, wow, no matter the explanation, you know, it makes for a solid attack ad punch, right?
Yeah, Rudy, I gotta tell you, Congressman Hunt may have felt safer dodging AK-47 rounds and rocket-propelled grenades in Afghanistan than he does fending off the Cornyn bombardment on the airwaves. Chronic vote skipper, one-time Hillary Clinton supporter, MAGA turncoat, DEI backer, a barrage of allegations from the well-funded incumbent. Bottom line, and I may be wrong, but the momentum we felt a couple weeks ago with Hunt appears to be stalling, and frankly, it's more about financial firepower than anything. Team Cornyn identified weak spots and are just pounding away over the airwaves. Here's another indicator at today's press event in Houston. No mentions of Hunt and no questions I heard about Hunt from reporters. Just saying. Rudy?
Yeah, flying into a lot of flack there. Hunt has an event here in Austin this evening. He was in East Texas yesterday. Chris, what's your read? Which camp has the momentum? Which one seems to be panicking?
So Hunt, in my view, Hunt is out of it. I don't think that he's ever going to be able to pull this off other than be the spoiler and throw it into a runoff. I think that John Cornyn is the one that's panicking here, and Ken Paxton is the one with the momentum. He's won every race he's ever run in Texas, even with all the trouble he's had. He's won and won last time by double digits. I think he's the one who feels comfortable, and Cornyn is the one who's really feeling the pressure.
All right, stay with us. Plenty more combat unfolding, Rudy. We got to go to break, and it's unfolding on Battleground Texas. Welcome back. The intensity of primary season generates conflict, and within that conflict looms opportunity. Such is the case for Texas 8 congressional candidate Nick Tran, an enormously proud immigrant and U.S. Army combat veteran who was so thoroughly offended by the words of a prominent Asian American Democrat, he felt compelled to issue a heartfelt rebuttal, a statement that's triggered millions of clicks.
Came here with nothing but the clothes on my back, and I achieved the American dream, a dream that is only available in this country. There's no Italian dream or British dream. It's here. And I want to make sure that my children, and your grandchildren have the same opportunity in this country. I fought our enemies abroad. I swore an oath to defend us from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I know that no country can destroy us from outside in, but we can be destroyed from within. And I'm stepping up because I see this country getting destroyed from the inside.
One symptom of that is the kind of rhetoric you heard from Democratic State House member Gene Wu.
The day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning.
That's not how citizens in a constitutional republic talk. That's how Marxists talk.
I spent a lot of time with brothers that fought for this country in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Kuwait, and a lot of them lost their lives. Most of the majority of them are Caucasian soldiers. And for someone to come out and say that they were my oppressors is wrong. They're my brothers, my family. We've been at war with China, not a kinetic war, but a cold war and an economic war. And to destroy us, you have to divide the people first. And I think that is a strategic, calculated move for Gene Wu to come out and say what he said.
You want the job of representing a congressional district. What do you bring to the table? What do you offer?
My resume wasn't built on rubbing elbows with political elites. Been forged in fire on the battlefield, in the mountains of Afghanistan and deserts of Iraq, in the boardrooms of oil and gas. I worked for oil and gas for 12 years, learning how to run a P&L, learning how to build programs, managing thousands of people and hiring them, making things work in the real world. Learn to be more American, learn to contribute to this country, learn to speak the language, and adopt our customs. America is the melting pot, but if you refuse to melt, that destroys us from within. So my message is, you come to America, do it legally, and strive to be an American. I specifically did not want endorsements from politicians, only from patriots and warriors like General Flynn and Colonel Allen West, and just regular people. Because when I get to D.C., that's who I want to represent, the people, not the politicians.
Tran is among 5 Republicans in the Texas 8 primary. Chris, Tran reminds me of you in the courtroom, just waiting for the other side to make a mistake and then hammering it with everything you got. In this case, even if Tran doesn't advance, a lot more people know him and what he stands for.
Yeah, and you can't blame him for jumping all over that. What we don't know, we only saw that one small clip. I don't know the whole story there and what in what he was talking about when he said that small clip. It's an unfortunate statement that he made. I know him very well, and that's not the man I know. But that's the problem with making statements like that, in making a statement that can be cut and used in a way that doesn't look the way it may have been. I don't know what he said, I don't know what it meant, and I don't know what he intended, but I certainly don't blame Tran for responding the way he did.
Rudy, this all goes back to identity politics as practiced by many in the Democratic Party. In this case, Gene Wu, who you have covered for years, I got to believe labeling white folks as oppressors to be overthrown in could be a losing strategy with moderates and independents.
Yeah, Greg, Gene Wu has a history of making some divisive and inflammatory comments while under the Capitol dome. So the reboot of that old comment from a couple of years ago was no surprise, and it clearly was done to muddy up the primary waters right now. I wouldn't be surprised if that comment didn't come back later this summer, as Republicans are going to try to regroup from a brutal primary season. And that comment certainly could be included in the coming ad blitz, reminding voters about Democrat policies like defunding police, pushing no bail releases, open borders, and gender identity, Greg.
All right, stay with us. Plenty more action on Battleground Texas to discuss on the other side of this break. Welcome back. Two things that I think bear mentioning from today's presser with Senator Cornyn. Number one, the fact that none of the law enforcement agencies are endorsing Ken Paxton, ostensibly the top cop in Texas. Cornyn got them all and says it should matter to voters. Second, Cornyn predicts Paxton at the top of the ticket will demonstrably hurt down ballot Republicans and absolutely sink President Trump's bid to pick up 5 seats in the Lone Star State. Rudy, what you got?
Well, Greg, as I mentioned earlier in the program, I've been looking at the early voting numbers right now in the big metro areas of Texas. In the first 2 days, Democrats outpacing the number of Republicans who going out and voting. Now, that trend may continue as Jasmine Crockett is doing a multi-town swing in North Texas today, and James Tellerico is also on the road in San Antonio and Houston yesterday, and he's going to be in El Paso on Saturday. The party-based drumbeat is only going to get louder as we get ready to move into the second week of early voting. Craig?
All right, Chris, what can you tell us?
Well, for me, the most interesting thing this week was when the president had CBS kick James Tellerico off of the I can't remember the name of the show now. Had him kicked off the show on the evening show. It shows just how strong they think Tellerico is and how much they think that Texas might swing over to the Democrats.
All right, that's all the time we have. You can see the interview or any of our past interviews by going to our YouTube pages. And keep the conversation going on social media.
We've got about a day and a week left of early voting. We'll have more about the top races, how they're shaping up tomorrow on Battleground Texas.